I basically told Katie, I'm struggling to be motivated. I'm really struggling to come in some days, and being in this room is really getting to me because we've got a little 3-meter square room. Like, it's small. And I was just like, I was feeling really down, and Katie's, it sounds like you have burnout. Because I felt like I wasn't really entitled to have burnout because I was working for myself and I could make my own hours and I was doing what I love. We didn't have enough time to build our socials because we were just caking, and all of our time was being spent making cakes for customers. We just kept going and we didn't really know where to go with it because, we get to a point. And then COVID came, and then that was the turning point for our business.
We knew that you followed Tig on TikTok, which is incredibly exciting, Dave, when we found that out. We're like scrolling and I'm like, oh my God, did you know Gordon Ramsay follows you?
People were like, who are you? Gordon Ramsay follows you. I was like, I'm no one. I don't know why he follows me. It's probably a mistake, but he does.
Now let's talk about that cake you're about to go make, maybe even while listening to this podcast. I want to know what you're going to present it in. A basic box with extenders wrapped in cellophane? I really hope not. There really is a simpler way to go about this by using OLBAA tall cake boxes. They're super strong, luxurious. They assemble in a minute with no extenders, no cellophane, and no fuss. Best of all, you get peace of mind when you hand it to your customer for its journey home, knowing it will arrive safely. You've just spent hours making that cake, so why not present it in something that shows it off? Check us out at www.olbaa.shop. Melbourne, Australia. When I lived there, I didn't know it for its cakes. I knew it for the coffee. But things have changed a lot since. One of the largest content creators around lives here and joins us for this episode. I'm referring to Tigga Mac and her bestie, Katie. They've gone from slaving away in that tiny kitchen of theirs, just keeping on top of cake orders, to become internationally recognized for their antics on social media. Not just TikTok, they're also really big on Instagram, they're really big on YouTube as well. I learned so much talking to them about mastering social media, and particularly TikTok, where they have, are you ready for this? Over 1.6 million followers. This has transformed their baking journey, from taking cake orders to content creation to brand deals, but still making lots of cake. I mean, there are so many interesting themes and ideas that they come up with for content. But at the heart of it, they are still self-taught, highly talented bakers. Years of grinding away to build up their business has given them the confidence to go and create and have so much fun doing it as a team. Get your notebook out for this one because there are so many useful lessons shared so kindly by these two lovely people. We're really excited to share this episode with you. Enjoy. Katie, this is so cool. Thank you so much for joining my baking journey. I'm really interested to talk to you both. Rach is the one who introduced me to the two of you. She found you, which wasn't actually that hard to do because you guys are pretty mega at this point. Let's be honest, right? You're probably one of the largest guests that we've had on the show. And this is a real honor for us. Yeah, for sure. So it's one of those things where we're just like, oh, they've responded. They want to come on. Brilliant. Let's talk. Let's go chat with them. And I'm really interested about hearing from the both of you because this is very much a partnership of the two of you, even though, Tigga, you're the face, obviously, on social media and everyone recognizes you. But Katie's there in the background and she's doing her bit too. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from the both of you. But I think where we need to start, we always like to start with this, is we like to go back to a bit of the beginning and get an understanding of where this all came about. Now, I know you've done things like night courses, you've posted some really old recipes stained with like cake ingredients and whatnot on your socials of some old things that you used to make. So give us an idea from both of you. Tigga, you can start. Like, where did the baking bit come in? Like, you went to this might have been when I was even living in Melbourne in the early 2000s. I'm not sure. But let's go back and like figure out, did somebody teach you this? Was it family or did you just have this knack in school or something to pick it up?
I worked in retail and this was back when I was early 20s and I was a teen and there was a local job going at a cake shop. and they wanted someone to do some cake decorating sort of stuff. But it was like a cheesecake shop. I don't know if you know what a cheesecake shop here is in Australia. It's a big franchise.
Sort of.
Okay.
So it's not really what I do now, but it was just sort of like my introduction into cake decorating. So, yeah, early 20s I was in retail, and then I got into this cake shop, and I worked there for like 6 years.
You'd always been like super creative in general.
Yeah.
You did a little bit of cake decorating at school and things like that. So
Yeah, well, I mean, there was like a couple of
knack.
classes we did. It was barely cake decorating, but I tend to like really take to the real creative side of things. I have a very visual mind. So when I was working in retail and I didn't want to do it anymore because it was just, I'm not going anywhere. I'm selling clothes at a clothing shop.
Yeah.
My mum suggested, like, cake decorating sounds really fun. Why don't you see if there's something out there for that? So I went and did a night course. It was 2 hours over 3 Wednesdays. So that is the only, I guess, training that I've had that I paid someone else for, where I went along on a Wednesday night and we had 2 hours. So in a total of 6 hours. That's the only training that I've had. Otherwise, everything else is self-taught.
And even before that, when you two met back in school, what you were age 8, you moved to the same school as what Katie was in?
Yeah.
So were you both a little bit creative and maybe even quirky back then? Did you maybe assign yourselves that status in your class for the two of you?
Yeah, we both definitely, through primary school and high school, favoured all of the art subjects, and whether it be visual arts or performing arts or, any of that sort of creativeness, we definitely both were really arty and passionate about it. Yeah, that was something we definitely both, we didn't necessarily see ourselves in business together, but as a friendship, we had like very similar interests, so which was great.
Did you follow the retail route Tigga did, Katie, after school?
No, not really. I worked in hospitality for a while.
You did work in retail with me. I was actually her boss.
She was my boss, actually. I was
in JJ's.
Yes, I was in hospitality, and then I went to retail for a while, which I found a lot easier than hospitality. It was really like hours-wise, and the workload and everything was really good. And then I actually then had my first daughter. I was in childcare for a little while working there, and then I had my first daughter, and so I was a stay-at-home mum for a while, and but I always loved baking. That was definitely something that my family has just always, from my grandmother to my mother to me, just everything was always made from scratch. And I just, it was just a love of mine. So it was something that I used to do with my own kids as well. And then obviously I would watch on the sidelines as Tig started at this cake shop, and she'd start posting these cakes she was doing, and I could just see they were getting like more and more impressive. And I was just going, wow. And so I kept saying to her, like, we should do this. I could bake and you could decorate.
Because I don't like the baking side of things. That's why we work really well. Katie is the baker and I'm the decorator. And so it's a very good partnership in that sense, because I just go in and the cake's all baked and I can just do my thing with it.
Yeah. But it really was just a dream and an idea for a very long time, because like everybody, I think you just have all these obstacles of, but what about this and what about that? And obviously financially, and it's such a huge risk. But I just had this empty little room in my house that my husband kind of kept saying, what are we going to do with this room? I think I just was like, I wanted to keep it for myself. I wanted to have something. So I was just like, I don't know. And then, I sort of suggested to Tig, let's convert that room. And then we're not paying a shop rent, like there's much less risk. And then we kind of just ended up doing it. And that was
Here we are.
But it didn't happen overnight, didn't?
No.
For you, Tigga, was it something where you were forced into it, that you walked into your job one day and you just didn't have a job?
Yeah, well, the company that I worked for, unfortunately, went bankrupt. They were all devastated. Everyone was devastated, and I walked in and I didn't have a job, which was, looking back on it now, kind of awesome, because
it was the push we needed.
It just shoved us over the edge of I don't have a job. We've got this room. We've got tradie hubbies who can help us build this room. And so it was literally about a month after I lost my job, we had a kitchen built, and then maybe another month after that we got approved by the council, and we were making cakes, and we did that. We did that for 3 years.
About that,
And we were making like up to 15 cakes a week.
It was
just
insane.
Me decorating.
That's a lot.
For one person to do 15 like specialty orders, it was a lot. And we weren't raking in the dollars.
And you're probably doing most of that towards the weekend as well, right? You've got to cram them all in for the weekend.
I didn't have a weekend life. It was
Yeah.
non-existent because I was at work, because celebrations happen over the weekend. So it was basically from Wednesday to Sunday I worked making the cakes, but Monday, Tuesday were still spent prepping for the cakes, like going out and getting supplies. And we were pretty much doing 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Katie being a mum of 4. Well, actually, you were a mum of 3.
Yeah.
And then which was a surprise.
Yeah. But it was, I think the workload was definitely, it was a lot. Tig is an incredibly fast worker in terms of her decorating and all of that. But even so, it was still, the
amount of cakes we had to do to bring in an income for us was like impossible.
Yeah,
it was becoming impossible to maintain. We were coming towards another breaking point where we weren't sure whether we could keep it up. Can we see ourselves working 7 days, just decorating cake after cake, just pushing out these cakes as many as possible to try and earn an income? And because we've got to pay the bills, and we've got we love our business. We loved our business.
We loved it, but
you do have to try and contribute. And I wanted to contribute to my household.
And I think it was a lot harder than it was easy. The way of going to work was easy because we had so much fun together, and we were just sort of running on adrenaline in the early days. It was so much fun. But I think there is that thing of everyone's have your own business, you make your own hours, and we soon realised that is true, and the flexibility is great, but it's all the hours.
Because every job is your job.
The boss will deal with that. Let's just head on out. It's like, oh God, we're the boss. We deal with that.
You didn't seem to then struggle getting the work, like getting cakes to do. People found you, or one party leads to another, right?
Like there were no real cakes around our area. There weren't a lot. And also the cake shop that I worked at that closed down was local to us. So our little business kind of filled that gap there. So we had some regulars that went to that cake shop who I was decorating cakes for. And, they sort of found out that I was doing them from a home-based council-approved kitchen. And we had customers straight away.
It's such a word-of-mouth business. I mean, we were lucky in that we never advertised ever. Like, obviously, we were posting on social media, but we had such a small following at that time. But I think the events industry in general is so word-of-mouth. I mean, you go to a party, everyone sees the cake, tastes the cake. Where did you get that cake? And just on and on from there. So, we were really lucky.
Were you doing mainly fondant cakes at that time, like novelty cakes?
They were mostly buttercream cakes.
Yeah, some fondant.
Buttercream.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like we were trying to fit as many in as we possibly could. So I did take a lot, sort of the drip cakes and the simpler types of cakes that I could then churn out a few more of. But every now and then I would do a more involved cake. But we were actually discussing like how can we we were trying to think of ways to build our socials, and we didn't have enough time to build our socials because we were just caking, and all of our time was being spent making cakes for customers that we just didn't even know. It was just like a rotating, we just kept going and we didn't really know where to go with it because we get to a point and then COVID came, and then that was the turning point for our business.
Would you say you had developed your own style of cake at that point, or were you just taking so many different kinds of orders it didn't matter, you would just make whatever?
We were trying to, but it was really hard because we were just...
I think that's one of the biggest things that we tell people now who are getting into baking and things like that, and they want to raise their profile or grow their business, and we're always saying to bakers, it can be incredibly difficult when you're first starting out because people will email you a picture of a Spider-Man cake and say, I want this. And, of course, it's very easy, but we learnt, especially along the way that if you're only churning out, for one thing, that's someone else's work that you're just doing. And secondly, you're going to be posting another picture of a cake that is already out there in the world. And it's so much better off to try and stamp your style early on. And, of course, you can still work with someone's theme and go, oh, my God, I would love to create a Spider-Man cake. Let me come up with a design and get back to you and see. And it's amazing how people are actually super receptive to that because they want a one-of-a-kind cake.
We didn't start doing that straight away because I guess it was sort of like my style evolved because I just sort of started doing it and I didn't have any training really. Like I had very little training at my cake shop that I was working at. We're doing cream cakes like, gâteaux.
Very different.
Black forests and stuff like that. So that's what I'm doing now. But I guess the more confident that we got with just like that basic, the trend at the moment or something like that, which was probably the drip cake when we started. We did so many of them. That was all the rage with chocolate sales and all that sort of stuff. The more that we got confident in doing all of that, the more I guess you don't want to then do that 100 times. Yeah. So we just sort of started to get a name for ourselves, and we started to become more popular. We started turning away business. As soon as we started to become popular enough that we actually couldn't fit anyone in, we were booked out months in advance. That's when we started to think we can start.
Yeah, we had the blessing to be a little pickier.
Yeah, we could be a bit pickier with with the cakes that we took on, and we would be very honest with the customers and say, we want to put our own spin on this cake. We don't do copies. It ended up being like a blanket rule for our business was we don't just copy someone else's cake anymore. You can give us inspiration and we'll take inspiration from those pictures, but from that, we wanted to just start to build our own portfolio of our own ideas. And I think that's really important, because why is someone going to want to watch your videos or look at your content if it's the same as 1,000 other social media pages?
It's a real confidence thing though, isn't it? That you have to go through and practice and get confident in your own style and be able to recreate those so that you know that you can then turn around and decorate and do your own thing. Because, when you're learning, you're just building out those styles and just believing like that will be good. But I do think like what you were talking about there, about that inner confidence and that inner confidence to say, I believe in my brand, I believe in my skills, and I believe that I can create something, and I have the confidence to create something that's slightly different.
Yeah, and it's also just like pushing yourself a little bit more. If you're only doing the same design over and over and over and over, like how are you going to grow and how is your skill going to improve? And I think that was sort of one of the things is I always wanted to push the boundaries. I always wanted to like try something new. I'd never done that, so let's give it a go.
And the great thing about cakes is you always have family and friends and somebody celebrating something. So you do get chances outside if you are starting out. You get those chances to try your own spin on things when it's, maybe a little less risky, until you can build that up and then take it to the next level and be doing it for, which is, where we were lucky enough to get to, where we were like, we only want to do our own thing. We only want to do it this way. And people were, just sort of thrilled, I guess, as Tigga's brand grew as well and our brand grew, just to have a cake by her. So I think you can, if you're lucky enough, you can get to a point where people put that trust in you. But it took us ages to get that. It took us ages to get to that point. And also
it took us ages just to believe that we had a right to dictate other people's event cakes. Like it took us ages to actually just think, you know what, like we know more than that person. We know what's possible and what is out there when it comes to decorating cakes. A lot of people just see a cake and they go, I want that. And they don't realise the options out there. And I mean, I'm saying that we recently it just reminds me of a competition that we ran recently where we gave away 4 wedding cakes, and we're in the midst of doing our last one. And it's just been so cool because I have done my own designs.
Yeah, and they have we had meetings with them, of course, to get to know them as a couple and tell us about your story, tell us about anything you would hate or anything you would love. But other than that, they get no say in the design. So the first time they're seeing it is at their wedding reception.
Oh, wow.
And we've done 3 out of 4. And 3 out of 4, they've messaged us and been like, oh, my God.
Yeah. And it's like the shackles.
Yeah.
It's like when you have a wedding cake, you're talking with the customer and you come up with the design, they usually have quite strict, guidelines to stick to, and I always I make suggestions and all that sort of stuff. And even though a lot of my previous wedding cakes were still my own and I still designed them and all of that, when you have there's just no rules. So it just opens up this world, and these people who have had these wedding cakes, they didn't know about any of the stuff that I gave to them. I used new stands and different things that they would have never seen before. And it was like the shackles were off and there's no rules, and I just went in and it was awesome.
You said 3 out of 4 were amazing response. What was the last one?
The 4th one we haven't done yet.
Okay.
I think I know which one of them that you're talking about. It's got the skulls and the red roses and it's a black cake.
Oh, no, we haven't released any visual videos or photos.
Okay. I did see their first wedding cake that they posted. I think Mr. and Mrs. Miller, if you're out there.
Yes.
The marble cake at the bottom tier was the black marble or the white marble with the black. Yeah. That was your first wedding cake. That's pretty good.
But that was actually booked in with my old cake shop.
Oh, which then went bust.
And I actually yoinked the slip because I knew it was coming up in a month's time. And I was like,
got in contact with them and we're like,
might not have even been a month. It might have been, I don't even know if we were.
I don't think we're fully, like, we hadn't really advertised or anything. We weren't fully up and running, but Tig was like, obviously this is your wedding.
I was like,
I don't want to let you down.
You can either not have a wedding cake, or you can either go out and find someone else to do a wedding cake, or I can do it from my mate's kitchen. And I made it for him.
And we actually kept that slip and we have it framed in our kitchen because we're like, it's our first ever cake as a business together, and it was awesome.
It's phenomenal. And what's amazing too is basically from that, you went straight into the wedding cake business as well as just doing everything else, which, like you've already mentioned, is just a different level of approach to making birthday celebration cakes. Or
I started doing wedding cakes at the cake shop I was working at because I was starting to learn. I was starting to teach myself so much there. They kind of gave me a lot of free rein, and they were like, because I'd started doing it myself before I got the job, just from home, just watching YouTube and trial and error and all that sort of stuff. And I'd made some cakes, and when I went to try and get this job at this little cake shop, I showed them some of those pictures, and they said, you look really artistic and all that sort of stuff. So when I got the job there, they then let me try new things, and I started working on all my skills, and then I started getting some wedding cake orders.
Wedding cakes are definitely a different beast. Like, it is obviously the pressure's a little bit, and you've got your kind of trying to factor in weather and deliveries and that sort of stuff. So it's definitely a lot more pressure, but it's still fun.
These last 4 wedding cakes have been a lot less stressful in some ways, but a lot more stressful in other ways, because you're really just putting it out there, like, you just fingers crossed that this couple.
but I think that works for some personalities. I know that definitely.
You're like that, right?
When we got married, I was very much just, do you know what? If someone can come up with a great design that might have a few little inputs from me, I'm all for it, because I think sometimes when you get too involved with something, you actually make it a mess. So it's better to let the person who's creative just do their work.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Our wedding cake was a mille-feuille, actually. It wasn't even...
Yeah, that was way before we got into cakes.
Yeah. It was just like thousands of layers of cream and cake. It was delicious, but it wasn't about the design or how it looked. We almost forgot to even eat it at some point.
I don't think I did eat it.
We were too busy dancing. Yeah, not bad though. Not a bad way to go. But okay, so you've been doing this for a while. Obviously, it is stressful. You're not necessarily cracking through. You are working 7 days a week. And then to pile on the pressure even more, COVID hits.
Yes.
I mean, we were in lockdowns here a lot here too, but I think Melbourne took the award for the longest amount of days in lockdown worldwide.
It ended up to over a year, I think, of certain restrictions at least.
Yeah, it was definitely tough. And that obviously meant as well me having, because the business is based from my house, so I had 4 kids to school from home with remote learning at the same time, when Tig was lucky enough that she was still able to come in, not at the same pace obviously, but come in because we're a food-based business, so we were still considered essential, which we were lucky.
Which was awesome because we're making cakes, but we're still considered essential. We're a food business. I was legally allowed to go to work during that time. I think there might have been a time when, like, for a couple of weeks where I wasn't. It was a very strict.
Yeah. Yes, there was a few weeks there. Yeah.
But otherwise, we went in and all events were cancelled. We had weddings booked months in advance. All year we had weddings booked. We had birthdays, and every single thing was cancelled except we did do some birthdays for home events if they just still wanted to have the cake for their kids. So because we were still allowed to provide some cakes and stuff.
We pivoted pretty.
Yeah, we massive pivot.
Yeah, we came up with cake mail, so we were sending slices of cake to people in the mail, which was hugely popular because obviously everybody was upset wanting to comfort each other but you couldn't see each other. So we were of cake and people were putting messages but I mean without sounding, because obviously COVID was catastrophic in so many ways, but in a business sense for us, I think it was a blessing because it was a complete shift in terms of finally having the time to focus on our social media and create some content and videos, and Tig sort of started her TikTok account and started doing voiceovers.
Yep.
And then things
because all of our orders got cancelled. I had all of this creative. When I was working full-time doing our cakes, all of my creative energy was going into these cakes and I was just go, that I couldn't think outside of that. But when all of that got taken away, and there was nothing. There was no events. And I was like, I did some artwork at home. I flipped some furniture. So I had some old furniture that I then repainted and new handles and did all that stuff. I dyed my hair pink. And then I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to try and film. Like, I'm going to just make little videos of cakes and I'm going to film them and I'm just going to see how they go. And, yeah, I guess that's how Tigga Mac, the TikTok page, started.
I remember that first cake you posted, the Galaxy Mirror cake. I think it was the first one I saw in your TikTok. After walking on the beach with your dog.
Yeah.
It's this mirror cake and you've got the voiceover.
And I think it was like number 4 in. We haven't even mentioned it yet, like your trademark okie dokie.
Exactly. Okie dokie came right in as well, pretty quick too. So
I say that a lot in just before I begin something. It's like, okie dokie, let's get started. And I said that at the start of one of my videos. And then a couple of videos later, I think it might be, I say it again. And then it just became like this thing in my head where it's like, okay, I'm just going to begin my videos like this because it's just like my way of being, all right, I'm getting started. Let's do this. Let's chat about something. Because it felt awkward. I couldn't think of how to begin my videos. Like, it was just like, hi, Tigga here. And it just, so many people introduce themselves in their videos at the start. And I don't know, I wanted something
that kind of became
me
a hook and also became really recognisable easily. So even though there are some people who are like, stop saying okie dokie, but it's the one thing that, no, it's a Tigga Mac video. You know as soon as you hit it. And in social media, you've got literally 3 seconds or less to hook someone in before they'll scroll past. So we wanted something that will stop them straight away because they're like, oh, I know this chick. I know,
So the first couple of okie dokies on my TikTok page were not premeditated. They were just, it happened naturally and I said it. And then I think they went quite well, the video. And then I sort of thought, I wonder what they liked about it. And then I thought, the next video I was struggling to start it. I was like, I couldn't get into a groove. And so I just said okie dokie and I kept going with it. And then it just sort of just kept happening. And yeah, like you said, it's definitely a way to sort of make people stop and realise that this is a Tigga Mac video. Because people can just scroll, not even 3 seconds, it's like 1 second.
Yeah.
So if my okie dokie at the start is enough to sort of stop one of my followers or a fan or something or someone who recognises it, then...
And that was when obviously things started to grow through that, and that was when, everything kind of shifted.
Because we did actually post our videos. You started...
I started a TikTok account for a little while.
Cake for Days one. Cake for Days is our business name. And we started a TikTok page with music and cake decorating. So it was just the cakes, videos, a couple of videos we filmed in the past, and they went awful. 1,000 views maybe.
Yeah, not great.
Not great.
A few hundred even. Yeah.
A few hundred views.
Yeah.
That was before COVID and everything like that, when TikTok was very new. And then, I started a brand new page with my voiceover and putting like that personality into it. I think that's the biggest change with getting views and getting a following is
showing who you are. Putting a story and a personality behind it.
And being like, who's behind the camera and who is this person decorating? Because there are a lot of cake decorating pages on social media. There are thousands of them. They are everywhere. And I think it was like this light bulb moment where we're just like, can we do to set us apart and make people be interested in us?
Yeah.
And you've also got that trademark that you always wear your hair turban as well. So you've always got your headbands
head ties and exactly all there. It's also, but this is what's really cool is you quickly saw success, and obviously a lot of people are at home not doing anything. Mm-hmm. They have the time now, and they catch on to something which is very entertaining to watch. You'd mentioned in a year you'd hit 400,000 followers on TikTok, pretty much. So the growth of that was really fast. Were you doing anything different for Instagram, or were you repurposing the same stuff as this was growing? Because it's double the work, right? If you do it that way.
We continued Instagram like normal, and we did not even really post the same videos from TikTok to Instagram. Instagram felt it was still stuck in the photos. Reels hadn't been brought in yet. So we kept posting still shots, but we also posted our long form videos. So TikTok, we were just very short videos on TikTok, a minute and under. But Instagram, we were like 3-minute videos. They were like full tutorials. I didn't do any voices, and it was all just like free music that I had on my app.
But I think once Reels came in, that was a big change for us as well. And I think that was something that we jumped on board with really quickly, which was lucky, because I think there was a lot of resistance from some people. And it's like anything with any of the social media apps, they will bring in things. And as we sort of say to people, you can choose not to jump on them. You can be like, I'm not doing Reels. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. But it will sort of only be to your own detriment, because these huge companies are going to push what they sort of, what they want to promote. And that their new feature, they're going to highlight whoever's using that new feature. So that was why when Reels came out, we were like, this would suit short form content, what we're sort of doing on TikTok. So then we started utilising that. I posted some of the TikTok videos, the viral ones that went viral on TikTok. I brought them over to Instagram, and we were getting all these comments from people on Instagram being like, why aren't all your videos voiced over like this? I did all these polls, like, do you want to hear my voice on these videos over here on Instagram? And everyone did. It was like overwhelming. Yes, post the voiceover ones. We don't want the music ones. Yeah.
Do the voiceover ones. So then it was like gradually, and then it just became, now our socials are all one thing almost. Like we have a video and it goes, they're always under a minute because of YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts are a minute or under, and we want to try and lessen our workload. So we do a minute for TikTok, it goes straight to Instagram, goes straight to Shorts, and it also goes over to Facebook Reels as well. So it's just all 4 platforms get the same video, basically usually on the same day at the same time.
And is it just the two of you creating it and editing and everything, right? There's nobody. We are looking at the whole team here, basically.
I find that very funny when people are like, if you could just consult your team, and I'm like, you're looking at it.
Yeah, this is the team.
We did get not too recently, but we do have a brand manager from Changes Studios, this company. And
it's probably about a year.
And he handles and that was when we started working with like more brands and companies and things like that. So he handles that side of it, which is lovely. And we've recently trying to think about putting on a bookkeeper, because we're both terrible with accounting and numbers.
Yes.
So know your strengths and know when to buy something.
This is the 6th year of our business, because we started in 2017. So in September or October or whatever, it'll be 6 years. Yeah. And we've never had a bookkeeper do our books.
Yeah. So we're like, we need to get onto that. But in terms of, the TIG does all of the video editing, and we've done everything on a phone. We've never had, and I think that was something that people, I shouldn't say it's an excuse, but I think it was an excuse for us, is that people are, I can't because I don't have a fancy camera and I don't have fancy backdrops and I don't have good equipment. And like, we've never used anything other than an iPhone, and we put it literally in a roll of duct tape and sat it on a and that was it. That was our fancy camera stuff. Like, that's all we
ever. We did that for about a year.
I think we bought like a tripod thing like a
maybe
year
even
ago.
2 years.
A year ago or something. Like, that's the amazing thing I think about social media and content creation and things like that in general, is that
the less polished it is almost, like especially on TikTok, the less polished you are, they want you to be real. And that's, I think, why changing our name, because we were Cake for Days for so long, and Katie actually sat us down and was like, we should go to Tigga Mac as our name fully, because it was the name on TikTok and that had taken off.
Yeah.
And Katie's like, let's make it our brand name.
It was just smart business and smart branding.
Yeah.
Although it was quite funny, because we posted on Instagram, and then I got flooded with, even from people in my own family, being like, is there a rift? Like, has she gone mad and forced you out? And we put it in the Instagram stories and stuff. I'm like, guys, like, this was my idea. Like, it's 100% like a branding point of view. We're still very much a team. It's fine. I'm fine. It's all good. So, yeah.
I want to talk about cupcake boxes, especially if you need room for tall ones or floral cupcakes. There's never really been a cupcake box on the market that gave you the confidence to safely transport them without damaging them. Nor has there been anything that makes it easy to place or remove cupcakes without ruining those pretty decorations. Until now. The OLBAA cupcake box fixes all these issues. Plenty of height, strong, and a gorgeous cupcake box that opens fully into a built-in serving tray. No mess, no fuss, no cupcake teeth, and no damage. Even your customers will appreciate just how easy it is to open the box and serve right from the tray. Check them out at www.olbaa.shop.
Being best friends, I mean, I think you're the first guest that we've had that are best friends. We've had sisters, we've had husband and wives, we've had...
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
right?
we've had
like
a lot of duos, brother, sister, etc.
Twins
as well. But how does the partnership work between the two of you? Because obviously, I mean, this is a question that comes up for Haf and I as well, but, you know, you are working in quite an intense environment and you are best friends outside of this as well. So do you divvy up the roles and make sure that you work on each other's strengths? And when there is times of tension, how do you resolve that pretty quickly?
Well, I think it really helps that we are like family and we've known each other for so long, 27 years, I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't really remember a time when Katie wasn't in my life. So we just know each other very well. We're also very similar. Like, we're both very sensitive and, I don't know, we understand each other.
Yeah.
And I think we're quick to apologise and just own up to when we're in a mood or...
Yeah, it sounds like really cliche, like everything, like in a relationship, I guess. But it really is just like communication. Like we always agreed from the beginning that like our friendship and all of that was sort of going to be at the forefront, and like we just I just think we communicate really well. And Tig said we do know each other. Tig can walk in or I can walk in and we can read it. We're like, oh, okay, like bad day or whatever. Like give each other a little bit of wider space here, or let's, you know.
We actually got
like,
asked if we like fight, like how do you work out fights and things like that, but it's not fights.
No.
We don't fight about anything.
We don't fight, no.
We might disagree about something and have a discussion about it, or we might, like, I might snap at Katie because I'm just in a mood and I'm tired and I'm stressed about what I'm doing, but then it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I snapped at you. And Katie would probably know that it's not her I'm snapping at, but that's how well we know each other. So it just works.
I think it works well as well because, like, we always joke that I'm the accelerator and Tig's the brakes. Like, my impulse is to say yes to everything and I get very hyped and excited about an idea, but I also lose interest very quickly. And Tig is so much more steady than me, which is really good because even though she's more hesitant and more likely to sort of be like, whoa, let's
just think this through.
Let's just stop. Let's just think. So I think in some ways that's good because I can push us a little bit more when it needs to be, but also Tig can be like, so I think it balances really well.
We do balance each other out a lot. Yeah.
But you say you're both sensitive people and you cannot grow on social media without offending somebody who's hypersensitive to somebody. I love, it's an Australian thing, obviously, like you call them negative Nellies. Mm-hmm. But they're out there, right? There are lots of people out there, trolls, call it whatever you want, that just would love to destroy your day.
Yeah.
And coming across that as you grow and dealing with that, how has that been?
It's weird. It's weird to be critiqued.
I mean, you've had some pretty nasty quotes thrown at you, Tigga. It's like we've read some. They're just awful.
You are what is wrong with society today. I was like, wow. Out of all the things in the world that is happening right now, I'm the problem.
I think I think we're lucky in that as much as Tig's face and personality has become a really huge part of our brand, we are still primarily, obviously, a cake-based thing. And
it's
so...
tough.
It's like our whole thing was let's be a form of escapism and let's be, especially being during COVID was when things really, so it was like people just need something light. There is so much going on in the world. There's so much seriousness. We want to be escapism. We want to be just a form of that. So I think being able to like separate when people are coming down with these hugely insane comments, like it's just so much like this is a you thing. Like we don't know what's going on with you. But this has absolutely nothing to do with Tig or her cake or anything.
At the end of the day, it's engagement. And I think one of the things that people don't understand is that a lot of the time I will say something in a video and it is very deliberate and it will incite some sort of passionate response from someone. Like when I called a Pavlova Australian and all the New Zealanders kicked up a fuss. And it was literally the whole point behind me saying that was to...
Because we love our
elicit a reaction.
And they always like to jump pretty quickly.
But it's the same thing. And there's always those Australian-New Zealand debates about where it was invented or who did it first. And I like to just stir the pot a little bit sometimes because it makes people comment. It makes people go, what? You said this.
And I think that's like, something that's almost infuriating now is that a lot of the time if someone puts a trolling comment, we'll just be like, thank you so much. Like the more comments and more engagement we get, the more people get to see our videos.
Thank you. Thanks for commenting.
Appreciate it. Like, obviously, if it's like really nasty or offensive or there's people bullying other people, then we like step in and start deleting and blocking and things like that, because I think we're mindful as well, especially on platforms like TikTok. Like a lot of they can be kids, and sometimes they just want a reaction back. So they'll put something deliberately mean, hoping to get a response, because then they're like, oh my God, she commented on my comment or whatever. So I just always keep in mind, like, oh my God, this could be like a little kid, and or like clearly stuff is going on for them that has absolutely nothing to do with us.
I'm also not afraid to question when someone comments something. I'm not afraid to sort of question it in a way that is respectful and sort of funny or a bit humorous, or I'll just poke fun a little bit just to keep the conversation going or make it a little bit funny. Or you just got to see the funny side of things, I think.
You do. I mean, the PAV topic is such. I remember when I was a bit. I mean, two of my good friends there, husband and wife couple. She's Australian, he's Kiwi. So when Pavlova comes up, I'm just going to go in the garden for a bit, guys.
Even just like different places in Australia, we called it different things like a Parma or a Palmy for a Parmigiana.
Yeah.
And that's a debate. Yeah. And so when I would just literally say Parma in a video, and then I've got 3/4 of Australia telling me I'm saying it wrong. And I think I reeled you in on that hook. Like,
and I'm always just like, let's sleep on it. Like the amount of times I've sometimes written a little bit of a rant back, and like, then I just sort of think, I'm not going to actually press post or anything on that. And half the time, if I wake up the next day, I'm not even thinking about it. And I think we're lucky that we're in it together. Like I do feel for creators who are out there making art on their own, and they don't have someone to vent to and bounce things off. Like we can say, oh my God, did you see what that person? And we can just discuss it between ourselves and get it out and resolve it without having to put something out on the internet that's there forever. You have to be really mindful of that. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's the importance of having that partnership, I think. I don't think if you had someone who wasn't as invested, they wouldn't perhaps understand. You need a best friend or a partner to really like vent on those topics.
It's good to have someone in it and who gets just how it all works and all that.
Yeah. And also, I mean, we don't even see all of it in certain terms. Tigga will obviously always post, and then for an hour or two after she's posted, she's really engaged with it, and I am too. Like, we'll comment back to people, and because it's important, because you're creating a community, and our audience is really important to us, so we want everyone to feel like community. But when videos go viral, like, you know, Tig did a cartoon cake that we did, and it got over like 120 million views on Instagram. And when things go like that, it's got thousands and thousands. Like, we're not going to see the comments. We no longer look at that video. Like, it kind of gets too big and out in the stratosphere. So then you just don't even have to worry about it, because you're
that's the thing.
That's out there now.
Yeah, the way that the videos work is when it first gets pushed out, it gets pushed out to people who the algorithm believes is going to enjoy your video. So usually that first initial group are like your followers and the people who have interests in that area. So they're going to be mostly positive and like what you're doing. And then if all of those people really like it, it goes to the next tier. And those people there might be a few more in there that don't really like it, but overall it got a good response. So it'll go further. And the further out it goes, the more viral it goes, the more likely you are going to reach someone who has zero interest in
cakes and decorating and
who hate it. And that's when you start getting the troll comments. So if you are getting troll comments, it's usually because your video has gone really big and it's been pushed out to everyone.
Yeah. So you've got to
it's a positive.
Take it as a compliment. Like, you've got to have a bit of a thick skin in that. Yeah, we've had people come to us and they do get really upset. Like, so, you know, I've been getting these comments, but your videos where you weren't getting comments were, if you look at your views, in a few hundred, and these videos that are getting comments are in the thousands. So it's good that you've clearly grown to get that. And like you said, you can never, ever please everybody. So that's just sort of how it's going to be.
I love it.
And at what point so if we're going back to creating starting to create content on TikTok and Instagram, or Instagram came a bit later, but creating the content on TikTok, at what point did you then go, we are reaching wide enough audiences that then we need to cut down on our orders? Was it a slow progression to then closing it as a cake business, or can we give us a bit of a time frame and what was going through your mind during that time?
Well, it wasn't that long after COVID restrictions, to be honest, because 2020 was all COVID, and then 2021 was a lot of COVID right up until November, I think. So, and then it's
kind of in 2022.
2022, we would have had weddings in like March of 2022, and then we pretty much didn't take any more bookings.
It was kind of probably the end of last year and then firmly this year where we basically, like, we've still take on a cake here and there, but was our first proper shift from purely decorating cakes for the community and for the public to creating cakes for brands, companies, and also just social
for content. Yeah. So it was really a really weird little transition, and we're still sort of
figuring it out
because we still do get a lot of people wanting to order cakes off us, but I think it just gets down to the point where, like, we just don't have the time to open our books to customers because we are crazy swamped with just trying to build our online presence, and we've got a whole lot of little different things that we've got our fingers in different pies.
We do. We've got our fingers in a lot of pies. Yeah, no, we've got a lot of different things going on. So I think, but it's really lovely to know that if we need to, or if we want to,
if we have a month where we're like, oh, we've got some time coming up. We have actually started doing what we're calling the Tigga Mac wish list, which we are now sort of getting into the swing of picking some.
Yeah, so basically people can, like, submit cakes on our website and Tig picks a few for free each, month just to create, so that we're still kind of keeping that side of the business open. But yeah,
it just sort of leaves it, once again, it's a free cake, so you don't really have a lot of say. You can tell me what the theme is, and then I just make something
based around that.
Yeah, based around that theme, but I just make what I want and you get it for free. So
it's probably nice for you creatively still to do that as well, because there's a lot of work behind the scenes where you'll be prepping for content, thinking about ideas, filming that, then editing it, then pushing it out. There's a massive amount of workload, but it's not so necessarily using your hands and having that creative outlet. So probably just making a cake on the fly is quite a nice thing to do rather than having to do 16 of them. But
we still get content, like we'll still film it and we still get to post about it.
And that balance is, like, really important, especially to Tig, because she is, like, the creativity in terms of decorating. It's really, like, important to maintain the balance of, yes, we love working with brands and advertising their products in really unique ways, and I think that's why brands love working with us. It's getting harder and harder to advertise to people because people just know they're being sold to. We can still have your brand in it, but it's in a really fun, creative way because we're making something out of cake and people want to watch that and people want to see that. But we also still want to be able to, like, if Tig wants to flex her creative muscles and still, like you said, just create content and cake for the sake of content and cake and for the fun of it.
On the content creation side there, I mean, two questions for you really. One is, have you burnt yourself out in the last year or 2 years since it's really gone crazy? Because it's so much work. I mean, you've said yourself you're working 7 days and you are absolutely loving it. And you do probably have one of the best jobs in the world, but it comes with a cost.
Definitely. I can't even tell you when it was, but it was probably mid last year or towards the end of last year where I basically told Katie, I'm struggling to be motivated. I'm really struggling to come in some days, and being in this room is really getting to me because we've got a little 3 meter square room. Like, it's small. And I was just like, I was feeling really, like, down, and Katie's like, it sounds like you have burnout. And I was like, because I felt like I wasn't really entitled to have burnout because I was working for myself and I could make my own hours and I was doing what I love. Like, I was doing I was so passionate about my job and it's my own sort of dream that I just didn't think that burnout was really something that I was entitled to have or that I could have.
Yeah, but
it definitely was. It was burnout.
And I think there is so much pressure on Tig because obviously in most jobs and most industries, if you want to have a little bit of a break, if you're just like, I need a bit of a mental health day, I'll just call up and usually there's somebody who can step in. And that's a really hard aspect for me too because I love baking, but I'm not a decorator. I don't have the certain skill set that Tig has. So it's part of me often on the phone being like, oh my God, yes, no, you need rest, but also you have to come in. No one else can do it. We don't have anyone else. If we've committed to a certain deadline or something,
Mind you, a year ago I had COVID. I was in bed for a week and we had 2 weddings that I couldn't do. And Katie did them.
Yeah.
So
it was a very stressful week. So I think, the burnout thing is very real. And
I think social media burnout also is a big thing. If your job is social media, because I spend a lot of my time just on my phone editing a video, posting the video and then commenting and replying to comments, and also spend a lot of time thinking of what the next video is going to be. So my brain is just trying to like, it just doesn't switch off. And I think that is where I got the burnout from. It's just constant. And it's almost like you're always working, even when you're not at work, even when I'm sitting in bed, I'm like, it's churning. My brain is churning. So but we really had to try and
we definitely put things like a little bit more in place. Like this year, like for the first time in 5 years, we're like committed to having weekends again. So we're like, we can work Monday to Friday, but the weekend is the weekend. And also not posting every day. Like we posted new content on the socials every single day, 7 days a week for 2 years straight. And I was like looking around saying to Tig, there's a lot of people who only post every second day or repost old content.
I do think
and now we've started doing that.
I do think that is one of the things, though, that if you are trying to get started in social media, it's one thing that I think really helped us is posting every day to a schedule sort of thing. It's the algorithm, they see you post and it's this person wants to be here. This person is here every day posting new content. And so it pushes out your videos because it's you're getting more.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it.
And it rewards you and it wants you to come back and post again. Yeah. So
it's definitely worth it for the time that we did it. But I think
now we're established.
Yeah, we got to a place where we're a bit more established that we can be like, we can post every second day and it will we will still survive.
Yeah.
And where do you get the inspiration for some of these themes? I mean, is that important for you just to, I'm thinking about, you've got so many, guess the cake, spot the fake cake.
Oh, I love fake cake. That's the best.
All of these. And I think when you're a creative type, you need to be out of that environment of that your small 3x3 kitchen area and be out probably walking the dog. The best creative ideas have never come to me when I'm just sat thinking about, I need to think about a creative idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, they definitely, we have brainstorming sessions. So you say that they don't happen when you're trying to think of creative ideas, but we actually do
sometimes
tend to set aside. Sometimes we have like a brainstorming session, but we do often bring ideas that there's a spark of an idea that we had when walking the dog or when I was just in bed. If I'm scrolling, I will often use Instagram and TikTok to get inspiration for things. So I think that's one thing that really helped us is getting inspiration not from cake. So
yeah, even like architecture, like a million things out there that we can randomly text each other and be like, oh my God, what about this? And it's almost like there is no bad idea. It doesn't mean we're going to do everything, but it's definitely a case of like kind of, there's no idea that's kind of too, and like it sounds stupid, but I think when you're working in a cake, you start to sort of see everything of be a cake thing. Like even walking around the supermarket and then all of a sudden like looking at products and then being like this could be a cake thing. Like I think we were seeing people, obviously it was a big trend of creating things, but we never saw anybody take it out into the real world. We're like, oh, I've seen people create products and stuff out of cake and trick people, putting it on a bench. And then we're like,
I think our biggest thing, the way that all started was because we had this thing that we wanted to reach people who wouldn't normally watch cake content. We wanted to appeal to, so we'd already appealed to cake people. How can we then appeal to people who aren't cake people but still make cake content? So we sort of tried to think outside the box and really push that out and push the boundaries, I guess, to really appeal to non-cakey people. And that's where the Spot the Cakes and the Shopping with Tiggers and all of those started, because you don't have to know cake or be a cake decorator to be interested in those videos. So.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also, if you create beef Wellington in honor of Gordon Ramsay, and then he duets you, I mean, that's just brilliant, right? You couldn't say you were expecting that to happen, surely.
Well, we made that cake in the hopes that he would duet, because he does those Ramsay Reacts sort of stuff. And
yes.
And we knew that
he actually follows me.
We knew that he followed Tig on TikTok, which is incredibly exciting day when we found that out.
Yeah.
We're like scrolling, I'm like, oh my God, did you know Gordon Ramsay follows you? And
people were like, who are you? Gordon Ramsay follows you. I was like, I'm no one. I don't know why he follows you. It's probably a mistake, but he does.
And then when we saw that, we're like, oh my God, let's make something, and then he might see it. And that was really, it was fun though. It was fun creating that whole.
So did he follow you before you made the cake?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, brilliant. And then you did it anyway.
That's what we were hoping. We're like, maybe we're more on his radar, so he might actually pick it.
He literally had 20 million followers at the time, and he was following 200 accounts, and we were one of them. It was like
as assumed it was some kind of glitch.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
what's
this
going
funny,
on?
like, he had all these celebrities that he's following, all with blue ticks, like Brad Pitt and Ryan Reynolds and everything.
But yeah, that's why we joked around our mate Gordo. We actually don't know him at all.
That's all right. It's a very Australian way to put it, though. I mean, he really is. He's our mate too, but we don't know him at all. Exactly. I think what's really cool is things like the Spot the Cake, for example. It's almost like you're building these mini series themes outside of your content. So your content is now forking into these other branches, which allows you to create other things that are interesting to other people outside the cake world. So Spot the Cake might be more interested to a certain demographic that another fork is not interested into. You've got so many now variants here of how you can take this beyond just, I don't even know what you would call your standard content, is it? But the creativity keeps coming. So the whole series around taking a Woolies mud cake and converting that into something as well. This is just another fork that you go through. So I just think all that is super brilliant. It's really, I think it'll inspire a lot of people who are listening to this because they're all getting stuck. I mean, they're creative types because they make cakes every day. The creativity to do that has to be there. But social media creativity is a very different thing, and your comfort level.
It's also, we're very small scale. So like in the sense of we will make cakes for our videos that are quite little. And I think you don't necessarily have to go massive. You don't have to go big. You don't have to do a 4-tiered cake that serves 200 people to make good content. We will make a cake that is the size of my fist and it can go viral. Like, it doesn't have to be huge to be good content.
Yeah, and I think just like you were saying, we've got a lot of branches going and a lot of things, which helps keep the creativity because like we can switch around. We can be like, let's do another cartoon trend and then let's do all these mud cake hacker and then we'll switch it up again. Let's do something more realistic. Like, yeah, it keeps it fresh for our audience, keeps it fresh for us. But yeah, I think
if you're just doing the same thing every video, then people are just going to be like, I have seen this before. I've seen this 100 times. We're always trying to evolve and push the limits and do something crazy.
Yeah, and we're trying to broaden our audience. Like, all of that is very, like, deliberate. And I think there's a bit of a misconception in social media content that, the people just throw it out there and it's not really that hard. But it's like now we're getting more into that space. And there are people who, study for years, like the algorithms and the social media content before there's so much sort of more, like, sciencey stuff behind it, which is kind of boring to get into. But it's trying to find your audience, and we know what might appeal to more people. Like, we got, like, only probably a small amount, but we did get some backlash when we started doing the store-bought cake hacks because cake decorators, which, and we never wanted to offend cake decorators anyway, but they were like, you're just showing people these hack things and that's not real baking, all right? And we're like...
And you're making it seem like a real baker, like, isn't worth the amount of money that they charge because... you're making this cake for $10.
Yeah, but we had to make it so clear that is a completely different thing. If anything, cake decorators are undercharging most of the time, and you're paying for their time, you are paying for their skills, you're paying
if you're going to Woolies, like, the thing that our Woolies hacks are doing is if you are a parent and you are going to buy a Woolies hack for your kid because, one, they're cheap, two, you don't have time, you're not going to be going and buying a $300 cake. Yeah, like, you haven't bought a Woolies cake.
Yeah, you're not going to.
Does that make sense?
It's just a completely different audience you're appealing to. There, of course, and especially if it's your first birthday and everyone wants to have the big showy cake, 100%, that's where you go to the professionals, which are your cake decorators. I know, obviously, as being a mum, and every year they all have a birthday, and not every year they have a big extravagant party, but every kid deserves a cake, no matter what. So that was just like our avenue of being like, yeah, we see the people who don't have that budget and don't have that time, and here's an avenue. And
here's an option for you, and here's something fun you can do, and you can do it yourself in however many easy steps.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend $300 or just get around Woolies mud. Like, those two aren't your only two options.
You can elevate it slightly, but not spend, that much.
Yeah,
but
it's really easy for those that are non-bakers. I'm thinking about my dad friends who are non-bakers, and their kid wants they want a caterpillar cake, right? So what you've done is being able to make it accessible for people who do want to make something, but they don't even know how to do it. Like, they look at some fancy cakes on Instagram or TikTok and go, I've got no idea how to do that, but I want to make something myself.
Yeah.
And so you are making it.
There's always going to be people that are never going to make the cake. They are always going to pay someone else to do it. There's always going to be those people.
Brilliant, because that's what you want. You want to support cake decorators as well. But
100%.
there's also going to be those people who, they want to get in the kitchen and they want to give it a go. And so we're like we said, it's all about broadening that audience as well. So we're welcoming them in, and then we're welcoming the people who just want to sit and scroll and be like, is that Vegemite or is that cake?
Yeah, and then we're also doing the tutorials and showing how we do things. So we are definitely trying to appeal to the different people that watch.
As we can. Yeah.
Do you get spotted quite a bit now when you're out and about? And how does that make you feel?
I just got spotted the last time I went to the shops the other day. It's very weird. It's very strange, but it's also really cool. Like, most people are really nice and they just want to say hello, and that's lovely. So
yeah, everyone is really nice.
It's just still very weird.
It's weirder. It's weirder when people, it's better when people come up and are like, oh my God, like I watch your TikToks and I love it. That's better. Because sometimes you just get people either staring and whispering, or they'll get out their phone, sneakily start filming, and you're like, that's a bit weird.
We had someone film us when we did our last shopping with Tigga. They got their phone out and were filming us, and we're like, all right, like I actually said, I can see you. I can see your phone.
Do you tell the store that you're doing that day, or do you just sort of rock up and just kind of like with cashiers and whatnot, it's a surprise?
We usually don't tell the store. We usually just sneak in, do it, and no one really sees it happen.
Yeah, we have to the last couple ones because it depends
if
now.
we work with a brand.
Because now, in the early days, we're just doing them for fun. They weren't paid promotions with anyone. We were just doing them for fun. I mean, obviously we were sort of hoping, if these go viral, then brands will see the opportunity there and be like, oh my God, could you create our product out of cake and put it on a shelf? So, but in the beginning,
we kind of planted the seed there. We were like, this sounds like a fun idea, but also, wouldn't it be cool if we got paid to do it?
Yeah. So we started playing. So, but the first few, we definitely, nobody knew. So it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, we would sneak in, we'd make sure there's no staff watching, we'd quickly pop it on the shelf and
then go back and
film the thing, and then we'd run out and be like, oh my God, thank God that's over.
Yeah. It's definitely less stressful because the last couple we have had permission because they were working with brands, so we got and it's definitely less stressful that way because everyone knows what we're there for and what we're supposed to do and stuff. But yeah, in some ways, the early days, it was kind of fun having the thrill of it. I love it.
As you've got bigger and more recognisable, obviously the brands have come knocking on your doors, and you've probably got to a stage now where you've got a lot of offers on the table. Is there some kind of parameter that you use to select which brand that you feel you want to work with, or like you and Katie sit down and go, all right, yeah, this makes sense? Or
we're pretty open as long as we can see. I'm a very visual person. I can see things in my mind. So if a brand reaches out and I can see it, then we'll go into discussions because it's just fun. It's fun creating cakes of different products. It's just a fun thing to do.
And it's also sometimes a logistics thing. Like, not everything can convert well into cakes. So sometimes it'll be like, well, that's a glass bottle and it's completely translucent. So that would be quite hard to translate.
We can do a cake inspired by this bottle in the same shape and maybe make it a bit arty, but to have it be like spot the cake. If it's a spot the cake, it has to meet certain criteria for us to actually be able to do it.
Yeah. And sometimes there are definitely brands that we're obviously really excited to work with. And in the beginning, we literally put it out there ourselves. We're like, are you an Aussie business, like a small Aussie business who wants to promote your brand or your business? Get in contact. And we gave them extremely cheap rates. Also because we wanted to support other small businesses because that's what we were.
And we wanted the experience of working with a brand on an advertisement sort of collaboration.
Just to build up our resume.
So it was a bit of a win-win for everyone. And we did, I think, 5 different small brands made cakes of their products. And that was sort of the beginning of making branded cakes.
Yeah. And sometimes the small brands are better in the way of they're very open, they're very knowledgeable in social media. So they're very you do your thing. Include us in it, but do your thing. And give us a lot more free reign, whereas sometimes more established big brands, it's so exciting and we love it, but also they will be a lot more, say this about it and say we've been on the industry for this many years and say we've got this new, and it's very hard to translate. We love that you're this passionate about it, but the audience don't care that it's the new 6530 model. People don't care about that, in a kind way.
It is really cool to be in a position now where we've got a lot of them under our belt, and now we are, we know social media and we know our videos and we know what will go well. And I think it's now almost like it'd be wrong if we didn't push back a little bit or offer our advice when it comes to what to say in these
we think
videos.
this will work better than other ones and stuff. So
yeah, we will say, I would suggest we take this line out and replace it with this because it's going to be much more well received or something like that, because that's our job now. Like, our job is to try and make people want to watch the video.
And what's also cool is you don't necessarily have to be the first one to start a trend to get that virality.
No.
Take cartoon cakes, for example. Those had been out for quite a while before you did that.
Nearly a year.
Crazy one. But you said you were late to the party jumping on it. We have another guest on our previous season who we interviewed. She did a cartoon cake, and then literally within a week, she was on US national television, and she's in the UK talking about this cartoon cake. So it's amazing. Like, yours went ballistic on TikTok when you did it.
It went crazy on Instagram, 120 million.
Instagram.
It was Instagram, 120 million. Is that the view? Oh my God, it's just nuts.
Both of them are nuts.
a bit insane, those numbers. But yeah, no, you definitely don't have to. I think as long as you can put your own spin on it, you definitely don't have to be, because in a lot of ways, everything is a copy of something. It's pretty impossible to come up with a completely original idea. And even if you do, so many times I'll message Tigga and be like, I've come up with something like, this is genius. And she'll be like,
it's a thing.
It's a thing. And I'm like, everything's a thing. I always think,
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's a thing.
People have made, the cartoon cake slice that I made was like inspired by another cake person's version, which her one was inspired by another cake person's one. So it was like, it evolved, and that's the one that I did. But the reason that I think mine went viral was because of my voice and the way that I introduced the cake. I think I said something like, I've got some leftover red velvet cake and I'm going to make something cool. And then I went into it, and I got a lot of comments about who has leftover cake, and just, I think that a lot of the videos just have a music background to them, and it's just someone making a cake. And I think bringing my voice into it is what has helped our videos go so well.
Yeah. And as long as you're crediting, there's a lot of things where it's like, even we'll be like, oh, we got inspiration, but we're just always making sure that as long as we can find who's done it, and if we don't, we will literally say,
I don't know
not sure who did this, but amazing, and let us know, like giving credit to people when they've come up with something. And as long as you're doing that, I think in putting your own spin on it, go for it. I think it's cool. I love when people recreate Tig's cakes. I just think it's awesome. It's really fun.
The music thing, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. It was a feature, right? At some point, they introduced music and trending music and just finding that music. And a lot of people were talking about how you should find trending music because that will help promote what you're putting out there. But it's not the case.
No, we have never I find using trending music almost, it can be detrimental, because a lot of the time they then get removed and audios get removed and the artist doesn't want them up anymore or something like that. And then your video just has no audio on it. And I think it was just it's really nice just to know that there is no copyright issues with what I'm posting. And like on YouTube Shorts, if you post a video with a sound, then everything that video earns, you've got to split it with that artist. And it's, well, if I'm doing a video and I'm posting it, like how can I get all the money from the ad revenue? You've got to try and be smarter. So eliminating anything like that just makes things so much easier. There's no stress about the copyrights or the splitting the royalties and all that sort of thing. So it's really nice just to be able to put my voice on it, and the video's done, and people tend to love listening to my voice, apparently. People think my voice is soothing, and no one's ever said that to me until I started doing...
I find that hysterical when she said that. I'm like, what?
Who knew? Well, all right, I'm going to use it. Okie dokie. I think we've got so much great information out of you guys. It's just really nice to hear the story and hear all these tips and suggestions and see this dynamic duo that you two are building this brand. It's just really cool to watch. One thing we love to do at the end of all of our podcasts is have a very quick fire round of questions for you. You can say the first thing that comes to mind. You can explain it. You don't have to explain it. Totally up to you. But this one, Tigga, is probably more for you. What's your preference here? American buttercream, Swiss meringue buttercream, ganache, fondant?
It'd be my Tigga Mac buttercream.
Swiss meringue.
It's a cheats Swiss meringue, but you can get that recipe on my YouTube. But also, I really enjoy working with fondant because of all the fun things that I can do with it. Decoration-wise, fondant, But taste-wise, if I was decorating a cake just for purely flavour, I would use my buttercream.
Fondant definitely has its uses. Like, for example, if you need to take a cake on a plane for several hours and you don't know what the temperature control is going to be and all this, it works out really well. I love that.
And a lot of people don't get that the cake, it's the guts that really matter. The fondant on the outside, like when you slice a cake up, hardly any of the pieces even are going to have fondant on them anyway. It's all about what is inside. And if you bake a beautiful cake that's moist and got lots of fillings and yummy stuff in it, then the fondant on the outside is not going to ruin that.
Exactly.
So, Katie, one for you. One aspect of baking you won't compromise on.
Ooh, probably like licking the spoon.
That's like essential, right?
Especially if you've got 4 kids. For either of you, a baking book from your bookshelf, if you've got one to recommend.
Women's Weekly.
The Women's Weekly birthday cake book. Just created a whole series for us, and it's so iconic in Australia.
I don't know if you've seen that, but
No.
Katie decorates on TikTok, there's a whole playlist of it, but Katie decorates a
Women's Weekly birthday cake.
And she films it, and I'm not anywhere near her when she does it. And then she sends that video to me, and then I blind react, do the voiceover to it. So I try and narrate like I normally do, but I'm narrating Katie's video of this Women's Weekly.
Some of them have been pretty...
Oh, they're so funny.
Interesting, but they're funny, yeah. And it's just
Excellent.
an iconic part of Australian culture. Like any kid who grew up in the 80s or 90s will have had a Women's Weekly birthday cake, and we love it.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Love it.
All right, you can both answer this, but you can't say each other, okay? So who would you want to make your next birthday cake?
Ooh, I've always wanted...
Don't tell Charles.
Yeah, I was about to say,
we're a big
I've always
fan
wanted
of
to eat
hers.
one of their cakes.
Always a
I
big
never
fan of
have.
hers.
Don't tell Charles, probably.
Yeah,
She's been on our show, actually. Yeah, she's amazing.
listening to that just before we jumped on here. We were listening to a couple. We listened to Cass Cakery, and then we were we're starting to listen to that one because we're big fans.
Well, Australia, I don't know what it is about Australia, but you guys are really still pushing ahead on the cake industry, ahead of the rest of the world. I feel like there's still so many brands that come out of Australia that go international that just can't be replicated by any other market. And I mean, Rachel's whole experience of coming into baking, you were inspired mostly by Australian bakers, right?
Yeah, Aussie bakers were, I don't know whether that was just the algorithm because we were in Singapore and so Australia was, a lot of Aussie bakers came up, but they were definitely the styles that I liked, like Magnolia Kitchen and Posh Little Cakes, Don't Tell Charles. Like when I was looking at cakes around 2017, 18, there was definitely a lot of Australians at that time. I'm pushing the boundaries on buttercream anyway.
Sure. I mean, and I saw the same thing 2 weeks ago in Miami at SoFlo. The cake conference there was, Colour Mill was there and a bunch of other Australian brands were there as well. A few Aussies walking around. It really is. You guys are really pushing well above your weight, which is amazing. I think it's brilliant. And you're inspiring the world. And you two directly are inspiring millions. And it's so cool to see that. It really is. With everything that you do, keep doing what you're doing because it is amazing. And we've loved having you on to chat with us. So we really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we've had a blast. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. And that's episode 20 with Tigga Mac and Katie. Really hope you enjoyed that. Everything you need to know about these two are in the show notes. And I highly encourage you to go and follow them and see what they're up to on a daily basis. It's a lot of fun. Thanks, Tigga. Thanks, Katie, for being a part of this. That was really cool. We're back next week. So don't forget, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button in your favorite podcast app so that you get notified as soon as the next episode comes out. And thank you. This episode is brought to you by OLBAA, packaging for bakers designed by a baker. Any guesses as to who that is? I think you already know. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.